Hello, everyone. Welcome to Telling Tales. We make atmospheric tabletop role-playing games for you here on Twitch and also on YouTube, kind of. And tonight is the climax of our series of Blades in the Dark. We will probably be returning to this at some point, but for now, this is where the tale of the Keepers at least pauses in its tracks. So, as usual, the first thing I'm going to do is introduce our stream manager, Steve, who's tinkering away in the background, adjusting cameras and art and rules questions and chat and all that good stuff. Hi, Steve. How are you tonight?
Evening, Matt. Yeah, well, thanks. Yeah, looking forward to seeing what happens.
Yeah, are you going to be sad to see the Keepers go? I mean, away for a while.
Not permanently. Maybe.
Of course not.
No. It'll be a bit of a gap.
The end of an era. About 6 months. The end of a while, of a bit. Yes. Good stuff. All right, let's get on with the promo, folks. Down below, you'll find a bunch of links. There's links to our Twitch and to our YouTube. You're watching us on one. Please do check out the other, especially if you like your archived roleplay content. Then YouTube may be a place for you because we have hours and hours and hours and multiple series of roleplay content on there now. So do check that out. There's links to our social media, to our Discord, and to our Patreon. They do all the things that those sites usually do. Check them out if you're interested. We have usually 3 weekly series going on, but we're in a bit of sort of chaos and transition at the moment. Monday nights is starting up again this coming Monday, which is Monday the 25th of October, where we'll be starting up a new series of Shadows of Esterin, which is like a dark fantasy thing run by Johnny. This, of course, is the last Blades in the Dark for a while and the last Tuesday night for a while, because we're going to be hopping to Thursdays, starting on Thursday, the 4th of November, for a sort of conglomerated World of Darkness campaign. If you want any more details on those two series, we did do a stream a couple of nights ago, going into kind of like the details of them and talking about the launch of them and stuff like that. That is still hovering around on Twitch VODs as this goes live, and it's also available on YouTube. So go check that out if you want more details. And Simbaroom, our regular Wednesday stream, will carry on regardless of anything, and that is carrying on, at the moment. All of our weekly streams go live at 8 o'clock p.m. BST. Which is 5 o'clock in the afternoon EST, and obviously whatever your time zone is. We also run monthly one-shots on the first Saturday of every month, the most recent of which was the lovely Pastoral Fantasy Wonderhome, and the next of which is on the 6th, Saturday the 6th of November, and is Dune Adventures in the Imperium, obviously run to coincide with the release of the movie because we are shameless. All the VODs for those available on YouTube. Yes. Okay. So I'm going to start introducing the players now. We'll bring them all on. We'll talk a little bit about the score we did last time, but I don't want to impact too much on this because if you've seen Blades in the Dark before, you know that it's a series of small stories chained together. And we're going to start by bringing on Justin, who plays 3 Sheets, the Keeper's Hound. I always want to say Hunter as the class, but it is Hound. Yeah. Although he is a hunter and hunter and trapper of men. And blackmailer, sure. And drug fiend. Hi, Justin. How are you?
Yeah, I'm pretty good.
How are you feeling about tonight's about waving goodbye to 3 Sheets for a while?
I'm hoping that something bad happens to him.
It would be cosmic justice.
Yeah, I think that I've long wanted a Pyrrhic ending to the character, potentially a final ending, but at the very least, just bad things to happen to him. He's not a bad person. He's not a good person. He's a bad person, and he should have a comeuppance.
Just like you're like Harrison Ford in the original Star Wars trilogy, just praying that Han Solo would die at some point.
Unfortunately, these kinds of things are not up to me.
No. I think they are partly up to you. I mean, tonight, try just charge at.
I'm going to obviously, in character, I don't want 3 Sheets to die. Only out of character. So I will continue to. I won't roleplay him to suicide or
no. I mean, I think any desire that Three Sheets has for his existence to end is purely kind of subconscious.
Yeah, and he exercises that through the ingestion of copious amounts of narcotics and hallucinogenics.
Colossal amounts.
Yeah.
So there we go. Let's bring on our next player, John. John plays Bricks, the cutter of the Keepers. Their heavy neck breaker, stairs destroyer. Hi, John.
Hello.
How are you feeling about the obviously probably temporary demise? Going away really is what I'm talking about. Demise. Maybe that sounds like the wrong kind of word of the Keepers and Bricks. Yeah.
I prefer to think of it as a not so quiet going to bed.
Sure. Yeah. I think Bricks has probably smashed every bed that he's ever had out of kind of middle of the night frustration more than anything else.
I want to say phrasing on that, but I'm not.
You're the one taking that in that direction. I'm completely just talking about him being a bundle of inarticulate rage.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he's destroyed every bed apart from maybe his childhood one, because Mama Dava does not stand for the wrecking of furniture in her household.
No, absolutely.
But other than that, yeah.
She's got that kind of like gangster mother thing of being like very, every thug still loves their mum, right?
Yeah.
Let's bring on Pierre, third player. Pierre plays Echo, part demonic thief, lurk, sneakster all round. Pierre, how are you feeling about this installment where Echo will almost certainly meet an end, a temporary end, an ending? Everything's an ending, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what you're talking about, Matt. Echo is going to meet with glorious success and victory, and everything is going to continue as per usual.
As she has done all the way through this arc.
I can never die, as we've established in the very first episode when I nearly died.
Yes. And then in an episode a bit later where you again nearly died.
Yeah. No, but it hasn't happened. 2 times is almost science, and therefore
exactly
it will never happen.
2 times proves it'll never happen, not that you're halfway through the game's arbitrary measure of at what point you lose out on your luck and die.
Yeah. I will earnestly miss this. It has I really enjoyed Blades in the Dark. So
good.
Yeah.
Good. Let's bring on our final player, Sam. I don't know. I'm looking at the list. Like, I don't know who the last player is. Sam plays Silver, the group Slide, kind of con lady, manipulator, deceptrix. Yeah, there's a word that doesn't exist. How you feeling, Silver, about Slide's inevitable death in narrative terms for a while?
I don't know what I'm expecting this to be our final victory, and that's why the story ends. We just finally take over the underworld of Duskfell. We just rule it as kings for the rest of time. There's no more story to tell after this week.
It sure seems likely, given that your tier is currently 1 out of 5, and victory is a kind of death because it's the ending of something, right? And death is a kind of victory, so maybe you're right. Absolutely.
Guys, Matt has mentioned death an awful lot. I'm beginning
to... that. Don't worry about
only in metaphorical terms. Sure. So there we go. Let's have the very quickest of quick recaps of last week's score. So last week, the Wraiths, a gang of thieves who you've been working with kind of on and off, had brought you on board to follow and surveil a mercenary captain working for a guild of merchants called the Hive. You followed him around the city to various different places, observed him pretty successfully, and in the end weren't quite rumbled, only because of some very quick thinking involving kicking a table and some drinks at some billhooks in a pub, which set off a classic big brawl, which you managed to escape pretty much unscathed. and you weren't rumbled. So in the end, a successful mission to report back to the race. Exactly why they wanted him followed, you have no idea. But there we go. That all worked out. So you know what? We've known that this was going to be the final episode of Blades in the Dark for a while. We have known for, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And I've been thinking about what score. Usually I put like a list of available scores to the guys, and they can like come up with their own like territory grabs or what if they want, and like they pick from them like in character. For this one, I thought, nah, let's not do that because we could end up with something humdrum, right? So instead, let's do something that's bringing a little bit of a storyline in this to a climax. So with that in mind, we are opening up. Our first scene is in the Keeper's Tower, that lighthouse they have. And it is, I think we agreed it's like about halfway up is that room you all gather in where you like play cards and maybe there's like a bit of a roaring hearth. And gathered in that room right now, it's feeling pretty crowded in there because in there are you four and the three wraiths you are familiar with. Slate, Loop, and Bug are all there as typically clad in their long in their skin tight sort of eel skin dark bodysuits, long kind of wraparound cloaks wrapping around them, and with those kind of dark steel masks with etched kind of designs on them, preventing you from seeing them at all, and like the odd grating effect that's added to their voice when they speak. They have come to tell you basically your final payment to them for retrieving the book that you sought on behalf of Dalmor has come to pass. There is a heist. It's going to happen, and you're going to help. Why don't we go round just very quickly? I want to go round, and I want each of you to tell me maybe how your character took this news, and tell me how you're sitting or standing or draping yourself around this chamber. Let's just have a flavorful final, intermediary image of all the keepers together before they go to their not doom. Cool. Let's start with that's the wrong die to roll. That doesn't help me. Let's start with Sam.
Well, we normally come here to gamble. I think I'm probably sat at the table, maybe just kind of messing with some dice or some cards, like absent-mindedly. But I think I'm probably happy. I'm probably smiling, quite pleased to see the rates, and happy that we're gonna finally find out what this big score is and get some payment from it. It seems like they have things well planned. Seems like should be good.
Yeah, good to cross off the list, right?
Yeah.
Sounds good. Pierre, how about Echo?
Echo is she's sitting in one of the chairs facing the hearth, kind of like staring really like intently into the fire, and the fire is like reflecting in her eyes, and she's just like maybe has a kind of nervous energy about her, and just sort of listening, but not actually making eye contact with the wraiths at the moment.
Sure, absolutely. Justin, how about 3 sheets?
I think like Marcus has got to play with Marcus. He's got a bit of like
Marcus. The is he ferret stoat
trained stoat weasel?
Trained stoat weasel.
Yeah. And ferret stoat weasel. It's a terrifying hybrid. Probably listening to the offer. Also glad that this whole that there's no obligation anymore after this. This will be it. We'll be finally unleashed on this city.
Absolutely. Free to do whatever the keepers want to do. John, how about Brix?
Brix is leaning against. I think they're like sort of in the back of the room. There are some old, slightly rotted crates and like old rigging from when this was a working lighthouse that has been thoroughly picked clean of anything useful. But Brix is just sort of loitering at the back, leaning against them slightly stiffly, without giving over that he's still kind of injured from that stomach wound, and just sort of a bit grumpy that he's being like, these people who aren't his people are telling him what to do, but also, we agreed to that. That's what it is.
Absolutely. So as you're doing this, the wraiths have made themselves comfortable, kind of like sitting around on chairs. Kind of Bug is sort of sitting on an open in the on the sill of an open window, kind of dangling her legs as there's a paralyzingly horrible drop directly down behind her. Loop is in the corner with those carved spirals on his mask, kind of muttering the occasional thing to himself, which you can't tell through that especially horrible interference in his voice. Slate has taken a stool and has kind of put his feet up on the table and is leaning back and looking around at you, and after a moment's silence finally says, "There is a caravan coming back from the Deadlands. Scavengers. Good ones. The best. Lady Thorne's personal crew. They come through the Lost District from the northeast, through the barriers, south, over the river and into Six Towers. But they have to break, to pause at the barriers for access. Their vehicles are too large to risk a random hit. So they have to deal with the spark rights. When they're still and their attention is occupied, we will strike." Loop, standing back in the corner, says, "We, not you." Slate nods. "We don't need you near the caravans. We need you nearby. There is a Sparkrite station on the edge near the barriers. It has an uncomfortably high number of crew. And to top it off, a Ministry of Preservation inspection is occurring on the same night. All we need you to do, the only thing, be at that station and make sure none of the rest of the Sparkrite crew or the Ministry inspection team come mess with us while we go about our business. We're looking to be quiet. I suppose we'd prefer you to be quiet, or at least not loud. But whatever you need to do to get it done, we don't care. Kill them all if you want. Knock them all out. Or just make sure they don't come running at the sound of any noise that might kick off. Maybe it's just a case of waiting around and seeing if any trouble happens."
Is this station inside or outside of the barriers?
Inside.
Well, that's one good thing.
Do we know anyone on the inside?
Sparkrites keep to themselves. Tight-knit. Loyal.
And how long will you need?
Not long. 5-10 minutes while the barriers come down and come back up. We're going to be in and out.
I think we can provide that window.
Agreed.
Good. Some of the Sparkrites will have to leave the station to open the barrier. Don't interfere with them, but after that, no one comes near the caravan from that station. Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I just sort of poke the fire.
Is there anything
How many
else we need to know?
I don't know. Is there anything else you need to know?
How many are there?
Spark writes.
Uh,
Team of about 10.
all right.
But like I say, you don't have to handle them all. Just make sure they don't come running.
And the Ministry of Preservation people.
Don't know how many of them there'll be, but there can't be that many.
Sure. Are these regular visits, these inspections? Seems awfully convenient.
No. They're regular. It's just bad timing. But we can't wait. There's a time limit on our target.
Okay. What's in it for us?
Coin. You'll be paid. This is a valuable acquisition. We'll pay you first before we sell it.
I don't suppose we have much choice.
Depends if you want to make enemies of us, I suppose. Loop's voice back from behind him says, "You don't."
Of course not. We're happy to help. When is all this taking place?
Tomorrow night. It's currently you're currently in the nighttime. So
okay. Like 24 hours, basically.
Yeah.
How will we know when we have the all clear to let them go back to their business?
If the caravan starts moving, either we've taken the target or we've missed it. As soon as that caravan starts coming through inside the barriers, it's done, one way or another.
Okay. Well, see you tomorrow night then.
Slate kind of... That didn't make a noise because I was doing that. Slaps his thighs, stands up, nods. Bug turns to Bricks and gives you like a cheery little... And then just kind of topples backwards out of the window, and you hear like a flurry of cloth, and definitely no impact to the bottom of the tower. Slate kind of takes a couple of steps and bounds out of the window similarly and vanishes off into the darkness of the night, which is slightly darker than the darkness of the day in Duskfall. Loop takes a couple of paces and clambers onto the window more laboriously, turns around and just says, "I need this. Don't mess it up." And kind of in contrast to the others where Bug kind of tumbled playfully backwards and Slate just nimbly leapt through, he just kind of falls like a dead body or something, kind of topples sideways. And you hear like a vague scrambling of stone and then nothing.
Right.
Doesn't seem too difficult. And,
No.
Depends how we do it, I suppose.
Yeah.
What would be the most daring way to do it?
I had a thought. If we have to do this quietly, I mean, perhaps we could cause some other event to happen at the station, some malfunction that requires plenty of attention.
Could sabotage the lightning grids.
I mean, you say that you're joking, but
it's just daring enough it's just crazy enough to work. Yeah, or we could pose ourselves as a caravan that's in distress. Draw some of them off.
I don't. Yeah.
I'd be slightly concerned about messing with the lightning grids. It does seem like a very good distraction, but they do serve an important purpose that helps us along with the entire city.
You have to admit, a massive invasion of ghosts would probably be a bit of a distraction.
Yes, but also we might be.
It's the doom of Doskvol, so it swings and roundabouts, isn't it?
I'm sure they're going to do it.
I mean, the alternative is, I think, scouting it out and.
Yeah, I think like just because we fall into this trap a bit, I think like making getting all your information together before discussing your approach is probably the more viable way to do it. What kind of things do we think? I mean, I'm assuming literally a scouting of the location is on the cards. Anything else?
I'd like to see if I can find out anything more about Ministry of Preservation inspections in general, and specifically like this one. I think the place where we work in the docks is like next to the Ministry of Preservation. So I'm assuming there are Ministry of Preservation people around.
Oh yeah, there's definitely Ministry of Preservation people all over the city, but in the docks, definitely for sure.
Okay.
Anything else from anyone else? I mean, we don't have to answer it now. Let's make these rolls, and then we'll see if there's anything extra we want to pick up. Because it's 24 hours, I think I'm going to limit it to one roll each. I think that's fair as a representation of that kind of stripped down, time you got available to you. I'm going to ask who is going to go inspect the location then. And it's probably going to be one of Justin or Pierre. So looks like Justin was volunteering there.
Yeah.
What do you want to roll for that?
I want to roll survey.
That seems like a very good choice to me. Obviously, it's going to be a controlled roll because nothing's going wrong at the moment. So yeah, why don't you give me that? I'm not going to drop any kind of devil's bargains or anything along those lines. So,
damn, I've only got one die in survey. Maybe I should do it.
Do you want to get some assistance, or
I could? I mean, is Echo a better place to do this kind of thing?
I'm equally well placed to you, but I'm happy to assist.
I would like assistance.
Okay, I will.
But it depends if you. I don't know how stressed out your character is.
I'm currently 3 stressed out, but I am going to help.
Okay.
So I'm now 4.
So I'm rolling 2 dice, and I roll a 6 and a 5.
Beautiful. Well then, I'm going to give you all the details about this location. So, Steve, can you bring up the map for us, which I see you've already got ready, like a wonderful stream manager. You see there at the northeast of Doskvol, you've got the district of Brightstone, which is quite an upmarket district. In high contrast to this, across the river there, you can see labeled as number 2 there is an area called the Lost District, one that used to be part of Doskvol, but essentially over the centuries became lost to the Deathlands. And has yet to be reclaimed in any fashion. So it's still a rambling expanse of kind of crumbling buildings and emptiness and ghosts. Essentially, the substation that Slate was talking about is it's not too far from that number 2 label, but on the inside of that barrier wall, you can see marked out with those, I guess, stars. I don't know what you'd call them, stretching around the inside. It is among an area of the Lost District, but one that is within the barriers. So it's surrounded by a lot of, again, crumbling old buildings, kind of knackered old cobblestone roads and stuff like that. But the building itself is, it's in an area of very packed old buildings. And there's a couple of roads on either side of it that you could get access to. There are doorways on both sides that seem to be used by the Sparkwrights. The station itself is kind of an old converted stone and timber building with dusty, broken, elaborate glasswork over it that's been repurposed for this. Nearby, there are a lot of junction boxes. You have no idea what they might do. whatsoever, other than they seem to be important in regulating power nearby, presumably. However, you hang around there and keep an eye out long enough that between you and Echo, you notice something else. You notice an alleyway to the side of this building, like a very cramped old alleyway full of debris. And on no less than 2 occasions, you notice an area of the wall there that you would assume to be just a kind of stone face of the wall, slips aside, and a Sparkrite comes out to do some quick task nearby. It seems to be maybe some kind of old secret doorway that they're using to just nip out and do, quick tasks nearby, without going through either of the main entrances on either side of the station. As quieter entrances go, it's certainly an appealing option.
Like an entrance to the
this is an entrance to the Sparkrite station. It's like a little secret doorway in a narrow alleyway.
That seems ideal.
There's not much else to tell, honestly. The station itself is very near the lightning barriers, so you would anticipate that when the Sparkrites leave to kind of let the scavengers in via kind of presumably like there are junction boxes and various controls at various points, that they'll leave to that area, and you can see that there's a somewhat clearer area of cobblestone road leading out further into where the darkness of the Deathlands lies, and it seems to be well traveled because there's not as much dust and debris along the road. You would assume that the caravan will come along that road, which is very nearby, like only a couple of short streets away, and then Sparkrites leave to go there, and then the station is presumably, if Slate is right, maintained by some kind of skeleton crew while they go out to let them in.
And are there... so you said that there were a bunch of old, like packed old buildings just around the place.
Yeah, like old ruined buildings all around the place.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I guess my thought is like, is it plausible that there could be that? So they're ruined. Sorry, you've answered my question in terms of the fact that they're ruined. So there wouldn't be human activity going on in these. You see little to zero human activity in and around. Like just by crossing the river, you saw basically no one's until you hit the Sparkrite station. People aren't around here. It's too close to the barriers. It's too, it's all. There's nothing here. Sure.
The places have been picked clean for centuries. So
cool.
Very quiet. Very nice place for a job.
Yeah.
Any other questions about the location?
If a fire was started in one of the old buildings, would it spread to the Sparkrite station, or is it separated by a significant amount?
Oh, yeah. If you set fire... Well, it depends if you could get the fire to take. While there is some... I think I said it was kind of wood and stone, but the wood is old and desiccated, and there isn't much of it. Kind of most of the buildings that have had wood elements, the wood has fallen apart. So it's mostly stone and glass. So if you got it to take... and it did spread, yes, they are packed together. But yeah,
I'm just putting ideas out there. Just putting ideas out there.
Sure.
Like a fire or like a bomb, assault. Like gonna find something.
Echo is like staring into the fire as she says this. But no, I
mean, obviously, it's you do what you want. I feel the need to just repeat Slate's instructions of. Doesn't need to be silent, but not loud.
But quiet is good. Yeah.
Yes.
A fire isn't necessarily very loud.
It's pretty suspicious.
Not the fire itself, no, but the people shouting there's a fire tend to be quite loud.
Yeah.
Unless they are on fire.
Maybe that's our backup plan.
Yes.
Always good to have a really straightforward, simple backup plan.
Absolutely. So that it sounds like, unless you want to jump in, that the questions on that have been covered. Let's do Sam's role, which I believe was about Ministry of Preservation inspection teams broadly, and then if you can get anything specific about this one also. So how are you going about acquiring that, and what role are you going to make for it?
I'm going to try and talk to some drunk Ministry of Preservation people in a bar in the docks, and hopefully they tell me a little bit more than they should.
Absolutely.
And I would like to roll consort.
Yep, sounds great.
And I would like to assist.
Nice.
Absolutely. Go for it. Using your usual tactics of Silver kind of charming people while you're in the background going.
Yeah.
Just so subtle. Just,
yeah.
Silver's being polite as anything.
Sounds good.
Okay, I'm rolling 3 dice. I got 2 5s and a 1.
Okay. That's absolutely fine. So let's deal with your, I guess, your complication first, right? That you're going to get from that because it is controlled. Let's have a minor complication. And that minor complication, unless you want to resist it, we haven't resisted a complication in ages. We really haven't. Have we forgotten that resisting happens?
It usually happens when we're quite
Stressed.
full up on stress already.
Yeah, sure. The complication is going to be an extra heat because you talk a bit too loudly in the dockfront bars. Unless you want to resist that.
I'll only resist if it's going to take us over the heat threshold for pretending we're civilians.
I think you might already be over that.
Okay, no, we went down to... We did some heat reduction, and we're currently on 2.
Okay, so it can take the hit then. Yeah,
okay.
It leaves another heat after that before it. Yeah.
I will leave it then.
Okay, yeah, take that heat. And yeah, you don't hear about this specific inspection team. I mean, that I think that was a long shot anyway. You know, that's a critical right there.
Yeah.
But you do, after talking to people, find out about kind of people complain about ministry inspections quite a lot. So they're very willing to talk about it on the subject. And in fact, you even find a drunk Sparkwright kind of complaining. It doesn't work at that substation. Again, that would be a bit too convenient. He works in Coleridge, but he complains about the ministry. You know, they come by every 6 months or so, and they poke around, and they barely really know what they're doing, but they're just there to kind of tick boxes. And you know, the Sparkwrights kind of put up with it because the ministry is more powerful than them, and they just kind of go, okay, fine. But it's a pain in the arse broadly, and it can, from what he says, it can take anywhere from 10 minutes and a few coin pushed into a hand to like hours, entire days gone.
Okay.
So who knows how long the inspection team will be there.
Does he give any information about like how many people are normally in an inspection team, and also like what kind of people? Is it like technical people who go on in an inspection? Is it like
he says that they send their most technically minded people who are usually not technically minded enough.
Okay.
But they tend to be small crews. You know, unless you want to poke him and say, "How many, old man?"
Yeah.
And make it a bit more obvious. Like, yeah, he just calls them small crew. You know, there's a few of them, there's a couple of them, whatever.
Okay. That's good. I don't think there's too much else. Seems like a reasonable amount of information to go with.
So, folks, we've had 2 roles. Is there anything else that specifically Echo and Bricks would at least like to lead the roles for, or do we feel comfortable? I think that's fine. I think at least the premise of this is relatively simple, so I wouldn't be surprised if you didn't want to do any more roles, but it's entirely up to you guys.
I was vaguely thinking about talking to someone who's a bit more tinkery than I am. Perhaps even Steve's old character, who was called...
Yeah, I think we can do that.
Rook,
yeah.
Rook, yeah. We can either... it's up to Steve. He can come on and guess for the scene, or I can play him. It's entirely up to him.
Suddenly throw that on him. But I was just going to sort of... My intention is to find out about, like, the ways in which these sorts of... If he knows anything about this, the lightning system, and
sure,
taken down, or
like if they like how the substation relates to the barrier, and like if there's anything you could do, and how bad is it if you do things, and etc., right?
If it goes down, how long it takes to come back up.
Yeah, stuff like that. Stuff like that. Yeah, sure. I think that's absolutely fine. Steve is just stream managing tonight, so I'm happy to take a little meeting with Rook. You know what? I don't think this necessarily needs to be it's up to you. You can either make a role for this, or I think we can treat Rook as an asset for the crew. So it's up to you. If you want to roll one of your stats, that's fine. But you can also just roll like Rook as an asset. I can't really. Yeah, I mean that's an odd thing to say because I guess you could like there's no chance of a complication if you just roll him as an asset. But you're also almost certainly going to get less dice because his tier is only going to be 1.
I was just thinking maybe
I think he's top tier.
Like if I come upon a thing that is likely to be something that could we do it in a sort of flashbacky way where it's like, you know, well, maybe I should have just done this as a flashback. I was just sort of thinking that, like, if I encounter a box and I'm like, which wire do I cut in order to?
Oh yeah, it's entirely up to you whether you want to do this as a roll now or hold on to the idea for a flashback later. But yeah, we need to obviously know now so we can do it.
I don't think there's any harm doing it now, and then you can always flashback to additional parts of the conversation.
And if you're worried about, like I say, if you're worried about, you know, if you don't want the chance of complications, you don't want to spend stress on it or anything, and don't want other people to assist, we can just have a tier roll, which will just be me basically rolling a die, you know, or you.
Let's go for that. Let's
for that. Just want to do that.
Rook of anything,
absolutely. Really. Well, why don't you just give me a single die roll then for Rook's tier and see how we do.
1.
Yeah. You go banging on Rook's door, and all you get in return is a long stream of guttural expletives from somewhere deep inside. Basically, you know, telling you to leave the area in as the least polite way as possible.
No, but Rook, I wasn't trying to. You know, it's all good. Is that
a wrench flies out of the window at you?
Gasoline. Okay, I sort of back out.
Bad timing.
Oh, not gasoline. It would be
put a barbaric fuel. We don't use gasoline. We use whale oil.
Tinker's gonna tinker.
Yeah.
Yeah. There we go. Anything else from the crew before we move forward?
I don't.
Just flashback.
I had an inkling.
You can flashback it later, like Pierre said.
Yeah, that's probably. I had an inkling of something, but it would depend what plan we're going with. So I say, let's go to what plan we're going.
Let's go there. Let's go to the plan, folks. So you guys get to take the front seat now. What we need to do is you need to talk about your engagement, i.e., how you are. You know, what you're doing, how you're arriving, and what your take on this is. You don't need to talk about how you're going to fix the problem. You need to talk about how you're arriving into it, and what method you're doing on that. I don't know why I'm explaining to you. I'm explaining to anyone watching who hasn't seen Blades in the Dark before. But why don't you go for it and talk amongst yourselves about how you want to approach this?
So, to me, I'm always going to advocate for a stealth thing, and at the point of entry being that door that we've found. So a plan being something like wait until they've gone to let the people in. When there's a skeleton crew, sneaking inside, seeing if we can find a place to maybe ambush or waylay anyone who's.
If we wait till they're going to let them in, then doesn't that mean that there's already going to isn't the objective to prevent anyone from going to assist?
No, I mean after the first time. So the first time they have to go out and they have to open the electric gates, basically. And during that time, there is going to be a very limited number of people in that building.
Right.
So if we want to ever get into that building, I think that is probably the most sort of like the least amount of people that will ever be there. Or I suppose we could just watch the door, and you know, but that would be. So I would be suggesting stealth, but I don't know. What do we think? Is it?
I've got 3 ideas.
3.
Great.
1. We pretend to be the Ministry of Preservation crew. Waylay the actual Ministry of Preservation and do everything we can to try and delay the people inside and stop them from leaving. 2.
What do you mean by stop? You don't mean the first people who are going out to open the barrier. You mean
no,
backup.
Just ignore the screams for help from outside. We're here and pay attention to us. 2. We wait for the Spark Rights to go out and open the gate, and then we lock the doors behind them so no one can get out. Possibly by battering them down, whatever. 3, we wait for the spark rights to leave, and then we storm the building and knock everyone out.
Okay,
but quietly, because that's what the race wanted.
Like with socks over our like.
It's like I say, it's a couple of streets away, and the lightning barrier actually makes a lot of noise, and also the station had a lot of machinery noise. As long as you're not like shooting everyone, and then they get no chance to kind of go and run around for ages, you can probably take them on, have a prolonged combat there that they wouldn't hear 2 streets away. You know,
maybe there's some way that we can sabotage that quick access door so that it can't open anymore, and then we can like just hem in the extras.
The only problem I'll just throw this at you. I'm not saying it's a certainty, but the only thing I'll throw in, if you've got any plan to just like hem them in and just not go in and just not let anyone out, you don't know for certain that the spark rights do not have a way from inside of contacting other people. Like telegraph type technology does exist. It's just primitive, and it's like it's only in the hands of like engineers and stuff,
or people who.
So
I
just want to put that in place in case you did. I'm not saying they do. I don't know if they do or not. I'd roll a fortune roll for it, but just in case you come up with that plan and I go, oh yeah, they just telegraph for help, I don't want you to go, Matt, like. We had no idea. But I just want you to know that technology exists.
I quite like Brick's first plan. I thought that the idea of, I mean, we could also combine it with the second and third plan, which is basically just.
I mean, look. First of all, the idea of posing as another team is so in line with our brand that I don't think we can pass up on the opportunity. And second of all, the idea of combining multiple plans that are all fine on their own into a massively complicated plan, it's also so on brand that we can't not do it.
How could it possibly go wrong?
Yeah.
If there are 4 plans, then all 4 of them have to go wrong. It's a quarter of the chance.
So if this is what we're coming to, because we have to kind of launch this like at the first part of the plan, right? So even though I would say, if this is what we're going with, even though you might say that like the plan overall is deception, I think we're probably starting on an assault, right? Because like if you're waylaying this Ministry of Preservation team and grabbing their uniforms off them, like I guess that's the first step of it, right? Or
can they be bribed or dissuaded? If they take bribes anyway, maybe we can just bribe them.
Possibility. I think there definitely is a difference between bribe to just tick the inspection and bribe to let us take your uniforms and carry out the inspection falsely. I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm not saying it wouldn't even work. Just saying there's a difference.
Knock them out, steal their uniforms does feel like pretty solid as a way of doing it.
It seems to me like they would have to cross the river somehow.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's any bridges.
There are not. There aren't bridges, but there are large ferry boats, which is presumably how the caravan is going to come across. And obviously, you have your own boats as well.
Yeah.
The ferry boats tend to be. There are private ferry boats for like richer individuals, or maybe the ministry has one of its own. You don't know, but like most of them are public ones or semi-public ones. So, you know.
Attack the ferry boat with our boats.
And if we did that, that would be, as we were talking about a crew upgrade that we still need to spend, there is one that would give us an advantage to fighting on a vehicle.
It's true.
This is getting wildly out of hand.
So part 1 of our plan is attack a ferry boat on which we've tracked the Ministry of Preservation people to, like, pirate it, tie up everyone on board, steal their uniforms, and then pose as them. Is that? I mean, I guess that's part 2 is pose as them. Part 3 is start a fire.
I do think this is too complicated. I think that we. I think if we're going to go for the military thing, we should just deal with them on the road, old-fashioned stylely with just beat them up or shoot them.
An ambush for them.
Yeah, and then take this stuff and then do the inspection. I think that's the plan. And the start off is going to be an assault on the road, ambushing them, and yeah.
Okay. You're on mute.
Is that what we feel we're going for, guys?
What work for you, Silver and Bricks?
I am slightly concerned. It depends where we can find them and meet them. The roads just through the town seem like a risky place to.
Sure, but they have to come across that river at some point, right? And the roads on the other side of it are pretty deserted and empty.
Okay,
yeah, they're actually pretty good for it. They are good for ambushes. I'll definitely say that.
And that seems, if we can do it on the other side, if there's enough travel time on the other side, then sure. that seems good.
And you know what? I think obviously the engagement roll determines how well that happens, or at least the starting position you're in, right?
Yeah.
Because I think there are some questions there, like how do you know where they're crossing over and how laying in wait for them. But that's what the engagement roll can sort for us, right? How well that goes. So this seems like something we're happy with. So we're good with an assault roll. The point of attack. So and the point of attack is somewhere along those dusty abandoned roads on the other side of the river,
hiding, right? Setting up some sort of ambush.
Which seems like Absolutely. 3 sheets kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. All right, let's get engaging then. So we have
good time to
one
start.
die just to start with. I think it's a pretty decent plan. It's a pretty good place for an ambush, and you've kind of got I think it's actually a decent plan.
It's surprising.
So
wow.
I think I'm going to give it a die for that. You know what? I'm going to give a die because it's daring. And that's the
right.
keeper's thing. So I'm going to give a daring die there.
Daring
there
die.
We go.
Aren't you a daring die once?
And I'm going to take one. I'm going to take one. I'm going to give you one because it's a good ambush location, and I'm going to take one away because you really have actually no idea where they're going to turn up. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Yeah.
There we go. And any other arguments for any dice?
I have a special ability, which is ambush. When you attack from hiding or spring a trap, you get +1 dice. Now, I'm not sure if that applies to this kind of fortune roll.
No, it won't apply to an engagement roll, I don't think.
Yeah. Okay. I've also got an ability a bit like that. But I think I don't know if this would count, but this is 3 sheets lying in wait to ambush somebody and shoot them, although it hasn't been very much of his character so far, is very much part of his job description. Does that help? Or
I don't think it helps with an engagement roll. It's like the team as a whole, and your rewards for that are that you're good at it when it happens in the game, if you see what I mean. Mm-hmm. So unless anyone can argue something else adding or taking away here. John?
Night.
It's always night.
Can we have our cohort help us keep watch in a slightly different location and raise the alarm if they see them? So that we're covering more ground for the ambush.
Yes. Because this is the thing with cohorts. I don't know how much you're meant to use them on the score, but I think so.
Or even have our cohort try and be the ferry that takes them across, so that we drop them in the right place or something like that.
Sure.
Or is that just
I don't think they'll manage to do that.
Or
because
signal us
the ferry boats are big. You don't do
maybe they
could large.
Maybe they're kind of in some way. We've spread them out over a bunch of things, and if they see them on road 1, then the one on that road will give us some sort of hand signal.
Absolutely, but here you go, and maybe you'll think I'm being cheated. I honestly have no investment in whether it's 3 or 4.
They're unreliable and wild.
Yep, I'm literally going to say if you want to use them, I'll give you a die for them, and I'm going to take one away because they're unreliable and wild.
I want to use them. Use them.
Oh yeah.
That's fine. I think we're good with this. I don't want to go have this take too long, so let's go with these 3, shall we? Let's see what we got here, folks. We've got a 2. We've got a 2.
Oh, yes. Come on, Nicholas.
But don't worry about them, because we've got a 2.
Oh, bloody hell. It's always the triple 2 result.
It's always
3
the
2s make a 6.
So this means you start out in a desperate situation.
Okay.
And I'm going to say that desperate situation is... oh, God. The options, though. All the options there could be. Go on, Justin, if you've got a suggestion. I've got many.
I would like 3 sheets. My thoughts is, like, we're in this kind of, like, boggy bit, just on the edge of the town river a bit, and there's just 3 sheets running with his rifle to just try and take a shot at the stagecoach driver.
Yeah.
Or something. Like, who's just kind of taking them off a different direction. He's just like...
Sure, yeah. Let's use that imagery. You've all been lurking here in this boggy bit on the edge of the river. Kind of, your cohorts are waiting further down, like further north to you, and they're going to signal you if they land, out of your range up there. And that you're kind of just lurking there for ages and ages and ages. Dusk has fallen, for what difference that makes in Duskfall, and the night is here, and you're just waiting, and then you hear it, the rattle, not of a stagecoach perhaps, but of a wagon, kind of further into the ruins, and kind of just some people kind of casually talking to each other, and you can hear it kind of retreating towards the station. Either you missed them or your cohort missed them, but they're past you and they're heading towards the station now. And if you want to catch them and ambush them and still carry this out, it's going to be a desperate action. And I'm going to say to catch up with them is a desperate group action.
Cool.
So who wants to lead this, and what do they want to roll?
I would like to lead this.
Okay.
Just because I have a bunch of stuff to do with desperate actions and pushing myself.
And because Echo is greedy for that desperate action XP.
I mean, yes. This would actually push me up on prowess, but I don't think that happens until the end. So yeah, I would like to do prowl.
Yep. I mean, because prowl, is the appropriate one.
Just trying to parkour my way over as many different...
Absolutely. And did you say, do you actually have this thing that gives you an extra die? Is it Daredevil or something?
When I roll a desperate action, I get +1 dice to my roll if I also take -1 to any resistance against consequences. Right. Okay. I can also push myself to perform a feat of athletics that verges on the superhuman. But obviously that would involve pushing myself, which is a bad thing, but maybe now is the time for that.
And because it's a group action, the urge to need to push yourself is lesser, lower. I think. But yeah.
But I will do the Daredevil.
Also, you wouldn't need a feat of supernatural agility to catch them. You just need to all run as fast as you goddamn can. And it's not going to be quite ambush either, because you're desperately, running through these streets. Okay, so shall we have everyone roll prowl then?
Yep, I am rolling 4 dice.
And don't forget to take your XP for that, please, Echo, for leading this desperate roll.
I rolled a 2.
I got a 3.
I got a 4, and that was on 2 dice taking the lowest.
I got 2 6s.
Yeah.
Well, you must be happy about that, because you're taking 2 stress as well. Yeah. So a critical on a desperate roll. Here we go. So you do this with increased effect. So you know what I'm going to say? I am going to say that, like you say, you were kind of parkour, you kind of squelch your way out of the mud nearby the river, and you all kind of parkour your way through these dusty, empty streets. Echo occasionally whispering, "Not there," as one of the others kind of scrambles slightly in the wrong direction. You leap over all these kind of low walls, even tumbling over some of the ruins, until you emerge. You have managed to cut off the wagon, and you have emerged in a kind of old ruined yard in front of a house in front of them, and they have not yet spotted you. Against all odds, you have actually managed to put yourself not in a perfect ambush position,
sure,
but in an all right one.
It still counts as an ambush, as opposed to us running into a carriage.
Yes, absolutely. And kind of, I imagine not because you rolled you rolled like a low one, but because you like the image of you kind of like running with this rifle. 3 Sheets kind of like is the last one to kind of bound through a window, kind of with this rifle held to avoid it dragging or catching. And kind of you can catch your breath for a moment, but if you want that ambush to happen, it's got to happen now.
Cool.
Definitely.
Who's taking that first? The first step in this.
Yeah, I mean,
it's going to be risky.
I'm happy to take a risky shot. I think I want to shoot the driver.
Mm-hmm. So this wagon is kind of like trundling down the road. It's got a couple of goats in front of it, and there is a driver. You can also see that there's 2 other individuals kind of sat in the back, kind of looking fairly bored. And there's a bunch of various bits of boxes and equipment and stuff like that. If you want to shoot the driver, I mean, I'd ask what you're going to use, but you're going to use skirmish, right? I would imagine. And is there any... well, you know what? I think I do need some clocks running here. Before we start, but they're probably challenging ones.
You set these clocks up so that you can offer us devil's bargains.
No. They are like I was like, I'll try and stay clear, but there's a couple of things that do make sense with clocks in this. So I'll offer you a devil's bargain for a tick clock.
So are they in a wagon?
They are in a wagon.
Is it drawn by goats?
It is drawn by goats.
How many goats?
2. I have answered all these questions already, but it is 2 goats.
Right, okay. I wonder if it's better to shoot the goats.
Sure.
No, let's shoot the driver.
The goats might be freaked out by the gunshot anyway.
Goats, generally speaking, do stop if the driver stops, because unlike horses, they don't have any sense of duty. You know what I mean? Like
typical goats.
I will not have you besmirch goats.
Sure. Are you taking that devil's bargain, by the way, Justin?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, why not? It's a different clock. Love it.
Yeah.
Do I want to push myself as well? Yes. Why not?
You can't push yourself out.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. In that case, I roll a 4.
Okay. Well, let's say... Yeah, okay. So your shot rings out. I mean, you knew it would be loud, but very loud in this big, kind of very open, empty area with no industry or anything nearby. Like the lightning barriers are there towering overhead and kind of crackling, and you can hear them in the near distance, but it's still a very loud shot, and you're slightly worried it may have been heard at the station. But nevertheless, the individual and he's in a Ministry of Preservation uniform driving the goats, and he just kind of, topples backwards and crashes into the back of the wagon. And the 2 in there are kind of like backing away from him, going, "Ah!"
I'm going to jump onto the back of the wagon and try and subdue / silence the 2 standing.
Absolutely. I'm assuming this is going to be a skirmish roll.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I don't think. I'm not going to offer you a devil's bargain.
Okay.
Can I assist?
Yeah, sure.
Or attempt to assist.
Sounds good.
It's better than me making my own roll.
You're like, like distracting them by being like, "Hey, over here, can you help me with something?"
Which they'll definitely fall for after their driver has just toppled dead into the back of the wagon. Excuse me.
Pay attention to me and not the big man grabbing you around the throat.
Yeah.
I do have a healing stomach wound at level 1. Which
I'd say
less
that.
Effect.
Yeah, less effect. Yeah, sure.
Yep.
I'd say that does impact. Yeah. So we'll just have this at standard effect, I think.
2 5s, and there's also that when I unleash physical violence, I'm especially frightening.
Especially frightening. Okay. Well, then we will have this situation. I'm going to say that because of your stomach wound, you're having to kind of, when you throw your punches and the like. Well, I should say, are you attempting to punch these people into submission, or are you attempting to kill them with your sledgehammer?
I was going to subdue them somewhat peacefully.
Them, sure. Subdue them peacefully, just with your fists and raw violence.
Knock them out.
So yeah, throwing punches is rather difficult with a stomach wound, and basically what I'm going to put on you is another level 1 harm of a pulled, probably like a pulled intercostal muscle or something, as you wrench the healing tissue with a punch, unless you want to resist it.
I am going to resist because I roll 4 dice for that.
That seems pretty strong.
Watch as he rolls
5. So
that's just 1 stress, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is reduced effect, I'm going to say you wade into the back of the wagon. Silver, how are you helping? You're on mute.
Muted.
Maybe I'm just helping to fight in whatever way I can.
Sure, leaping aboard as well. Yeah, absolutely.
You've got a cane, right?
Yeah, I have a cane sword, so maybe I've left the sword in the cane for now.
Yeah, and you're just kind of thrashing away, sort of thing. Silver, you kind of emerge out of the darkness at the side and kind of because the wagon's only chest high, you're kind of wailing. Whoa! One of them topples forwards, and as that provides a distraction for the other one, Brix leaps aboard and just kind of crack over onto the chin, and the other one topples over the wagon onto the rough road and is just sparked out on the road, and the other one is being wailed on by Silver with a cane, but is still kind of desperately trying to fight back. Is anyone else going to roll further? Oh no, you know what, because of your ability, Brix, that you're particularly terrifying, I'm going to do a fortune roll to see if the other guy just gives up. Does that seem fair? That seems fair. But I think they're not a particularly bold individual. I'm going to give them a disadvantage on it as well.
Sounds good.
Yeah, that guy kind of just is desperately fending off the cane and going, oh, whatever you want, just take it all. And he's just kind of cowering at on the floor of the wagon.
Right. Gives you uniform.
All right. And just kind of, it's like a jumpsuit type thing, and he just kind of unfastens the front of it, wriggles out of it, and kind of has leapt off the wagon, and he's looking around at his one unconscious companion and the other one just dead, laying in the wagon, and kind of looks around and goes, Can I go?
No. And I will.
He kind of jumps because Echo hasn't done anything to this point, and turns around.
You can look down at the ground and put your hands behind your back. Sort of,
God, I thought this was going to turn into a really dark kind of mice and men moment. Just think of happy things.
I'm not like that. I'm not like the other 3.
I mean, wow. First of all, and second of all,
I just keep their company and profit from their murderous violence.
Yeah. Yes. We should do something to make sure this one doesn't immediately raise an alarm. Perhaps,
I was thinking of just tying them up, and
there's an option. Do you have any rope on your load?
I have a manacles and chain.
Oh, of course, Briggs has manacles.
Fair enough. I was going to roll a fortune roll to see if there's some rope in the wagon. Do you want me to still do that?
Oh, yeah, go for it.
There is not.
Then I have some manacles and chain, which is part of the cutter kit. For some reason,
sure.
I'm going to
for this exact reason.
We should talk about load, shouldn't we?
Yeah.
So what's everyone's load that they're taking? Justin's taking 5. That's normal, right? The 5 load.
Yep, normal load.
Yeah.
I'm going to go for normal as well.
Everyone's
thought about lights, and I was like, a rifle plus a sword, that's already 3.
Yeah, it's already nearly there. And
I might need Marcus to help out with something.
Absolutely.
High explosive can you pack into?
Exactly.
And I also think it might be worth it. Our backup plan for our crew upgrade was smugglers rigging and elite rovers, which means the smugglers rigging would allow us to conceal 2 items of load, which means even if we were
searched, you
pretend
still
to
have.
be, yeah.
Did we determine what we were taking
No,
for
we
those
didn't.
upgrades? No. Okay. Well, shall we take them?
Yeah.
Those things. Okay. Yeah. That's absolutely fine. I don't feel the need to make you roll to tie these people up if you've got manacles and chains. No. So you strip off the other 2 uniforms. I am now going to make a fortune roll on how visibly bullet ridden the other uniform is, whether like 3 sheets managed a headshot or not. And I think I'm just gonna make a standard fortune roll. I don't see the need to adjust it. Ooh, right between the eyes. The other one is completely unmarked. You've got 3 completely unmarked uniforms.
Nice.
I'm guessing they fit everyone except me.
And
yes.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you're the big one, so yeah, let's say that that you're the one who can't fit into one.
I'm the small one.
Yeah. You can tuck it.
I guess I'm going to go to the goats and try and calm them down.
They're pretty calm already, honestly. It was just one loud gunshot and then brutal violence a short distance from them. They weren't really bothered by the second part.
I'll be honest.
It every day.
I just like the goats.
Let's get going. We don't want to be late for our appointment.
Absolutely. So, if you're all done up in these Ministry Preservation uniforms now, like as I say, they're kind of button-up jumpsuits, you know, and you are making. Are you going to use the wagon to do it? Are you going to go in the wagon?
Who's wearing the uniforms?
I think we said everyone but Bricks.
Everyone but Bricks, okay.
But I mean, you don't have to. You don't have to have 3 people wear them.
Does it make more sense for Bricks to be closer to the action and wearing the uniform?
I guess if things go south. My thought was I could wait outside so that if you can't manage to keep everyone inside, I can take care of
Put the guy with the long rifle outside. That's what I think.
That does make sense.
That's fine.
No survivors.
I guess I should have made a fortune roll to see if all the uniforms fit you, but I can't. That's too much fun.
They're one size fits
they're big,
all.
they're big loose jumpsuits anyway. It's fine.
Basically dressing gowns.
Yeah. You're just slip knotting it up. It's fine. Dated. So, what have we chained them to then? If we're taking the wagon, just out of interest, just name anything. It's fine.
I would suggest
nearby
a rusty pipe, such that if we don't return from this, they actually might be able to break free rather than just dying out here.
No, ridiculous. Never gonna happen. Me and I can suggest it, but like me and Briggs, like no, that's a crazy idea.
Okay.
I'm gonna attach them to like an old bit of iron fence.
Yeah. There's plenty of that kind of stuff around. I described yards nearby, right? So I think that's absolutely fine.
Can I?
Are you leaving the dead guy just in the middle of the road?
No, I'm gonna dump him also in the a garden, just
next
like over a wall.
Sure. Yeah.
Can I search both the people and the wagon for? Do they have some kind of identification, some documents proving or saying what they're going to do here, or anything like that?
I was going to make a fortune roll, but of course they will. They would, right?
They've got high vision and clipboard. That's all you need.
There's like some papers tucked into the pocket of the dead guy on the inner side, and you managed to, well remembered though, eh?
I'll definitely take those.
Yeah. You can take them and tuck them in. The wagon creaks along the road to the north, and you navigate your way to that to the substation. Let me quickly kind of describe the area just quickly again. The actual streets that are surrounding it are both cramped and noisy, with the sounds of machinery clattering away inside the station, the sounds of the sparking lightning barriers like crackling and booming overhead. There are also kind of old skyway paths overhead, which I guess I could have mentioned when you were plotting out your thing if you wanted some crazy aerial scheme, but they've almost completely kind of fallen apart. They're just arcs of rusting, horrible iron, and you could try and do something to go up them, but you wouldn't want to do any kind of fancy maneuvers or anything because they will just collapse and tumble down about 50 feet to the ground. There are quite a number of the only newer things that are visible are these junction boxes, which crop up almost at every intersection, and seem to have. There's no dust on them. They have like little stamps on the front of them, like series of stamps. The older of which are like kind of faded. They look very regularly maintained. The actual station itself, as you pull the wagon up nearby it, is an old converted stone and timber building that has dusty, broken, elaborate glasswork in all the kind of the frames of the windows. It has obviously that kind of secret doorway in an alley I mentioned, and otherwise it looks occupied because you can see lights on inside, but there's kind of no one standing guard outside or anything like that. There's just a large set of metal double doors on the outside that look, the only way in is either to try them or to bang on them, I guess.
I suppose the question is, do we wait for people to leave or do we go immediately?
I was thinking maybe we could even go in through that entrance, and if we get caught, then be like, we saw somebody using an unlicensed entrance over here. What is, like... And we were just having a look around to see if this actually goes into the main body of
this. Is this trapdoor up to code?
Yeah, exactly. Should this really be unlocked? And if we don't get caught, yeah, I don't know. Maybe
I just want to... Sorry, a thought just occurred to me, and I just wanted to amend what I said before. I don't think any complex actions can be taken from those skyways, but being up on one, as long as you know what you're doing and us trying to be safe, could be a very good vantage point from which you can see both the station and the road that the caravan is going to be coming down.
Right.
I just thought I'd amend that because it just occurred to me that would be a very good use for them. So I'll just say that. I don't think you can all clamber up on them and like drop into the station or anything. You're all dead. But like... one person who knows what they're doing could maybe shimmy up one of them. It would be dangerous, but it would provide good vantage. That's all.
Yeah, I mean,
I can give it a go.
That seems like a good shout.
You would definitely have a really good field for like taking a shot of people. Not within the station, you can't see into that from up there, but like anyone coming out, you'd have a very good shot from up there.
Are we going to try and sabotage this back door at some point? Is that part of the plan still?
Depends on if we get the opportunity when we go up there, I think.
Okay. Well, then I'm happy to kind of like jump out of the carriage as it approaches one of these points and start shimmying up.
Sure. There's like basically the kind of like loose old stanchions holding up all these old skyways, which have like the remnants of where people used to walk across them, but they're all kind of tumbled down and fallen out. So you just have to clamber across and be very careful with them. But yeah, I think it's a risky action to get up to one of them. What are you going to be rolling?
Be rolling prowl.
Prowl, yeah.
And I'm happy to push myself.
Sure. I don't have a devil's bargain for you, so go for it.
I rolled a 4.
Yeah, that seems absolutely fine. The complication I'm going to give you is going to be, because it's old and it's rusty and it's falling apart, I am going to give you a level 1 harm unless you resist it.
I am going to resist it. Why not?
Yeah, it'll be prowess.
And I rolled a 4. I rolled a lot of 4s tonight.
So that's 2 stress, but you don't take the level 1 harm. You notice like a little jagged piece of rusty metal.
It's always 3 sheets.
It's always 3 sheets in the hands and stuff. On your way up, but you just managed to avoid like impaling your palm on it.
I've seen this before.
Yeah, exactly. As you clamber up and you find yourself like on a section of skyway, most of like where the people used to walk has fallen away, but there's just like 3 or 4 desiccated planks still in the iron frame laid across, and you can lie yourself prone across them safely and just kind of rest that long rifle on the edge.
If it becomes relevant, I have a +1 dice to avoid detection while hiding in a prepared position.
That will definitely apply. If anyone comes looking for you, that will definitely apply. So there you are, lurking above. So I say if we're going into this place now, how are we going into this place? And let's move our deception part of this forward. We're knocking on the door. Are we doing Pierre's? You shouldn't have had this secret entrance that we just came in through.
That we just walked through.
Yeah.
I think the secret entrance thing is definitely a thing we should bring up with them, but we're not trying to be sneaky as we enter. So it's almost, if they don't find us, our plan has almost served no purpose.
You are the expert on all matters social, Silver. I think that's a good. I think you make a good point. I just have a gut instinct to go unseen.
A commendable one. Perhaps I think. Go ahead, Briggs.
Could park the wagon in front of one of the doors, the secret door. You don't know it's there.
I think I described it as a very narrow, cramped alleyway, so I'm going to rule that the wagon won't fit in there.
But I could park it in front of the alleyway, and then they'd have to climb
one side of the alleyway. Yeah, the side nearest that street, maybe. So they'd have to go around nearest, where the caravan is coming. So maybe,
yeah, make it awkward.
I would also provide a very good rationale for how we noticed the door when we.
Well, shall we do that then? Shall we park in front, make it so to get directly from that alleyway to where the caravan is? They've either got to clamber over a wagon or go all the way around. It'll help, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you park up there, and it sounds like to me that you're going with a straight up...
Going to the front door.
Going to the front door sort of thing. Okay. I'd ask who's going to handle that role. I feel like it's a no-brainer who's going to handle that role, but you tell me if it's Silver or not.
I'm definitely happy to do it.
So do you want to do maybe a group action to kind of sell yourselves as the inspection team overall? Do you want Silver to handle it?
I would be inclined to go for Silver handling it, and I would assist, but I'm happy to do a...
Your usual... We're the inspection team.
Ministry for Preservation.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. I think this is a risky role. It's not desperate or anything. So I think, you've got the uniforms, you've got the papers. You don't know what the hell you're talking about. So I think that's what makes it risky. But yeah. So are we going with Silver leading the role, Bricks helping, and Echo lurking appropriately in the background?
Fine with me.
Yeah. Yep.
Do we get the dice for passing ourselves off as civilians?
We're passing ourselves off.
Yes.
Technical experts.
Yes. Why not? Yes.
Nice.
I think so. Sure.
Okay. I'm going to roll.
Matt thinks to himself, not that it will help.
I'm going to roll sway. I think that's appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
I'm rolling 5 dice.
Whoa.
Bricks and extra dice. I got 2 6s. Nice.
Don't forget your stress for helping there, Bricks. You bang on the door a couple of times, and it kind of jerks open quite shortly afterwards, and you're faced with a kind of short, stout woman with bright red hair, wearing you've seen Sparkrights before. They wear kind of leathers with overalls on the top of them, kind of large adjustable goggles, and hers are kind of pushed up on her forehead. And she peers at you, kind of blinking in the darkness outside, and says, "Oh, right, papers.
Here you go. I'm sure you'll find that all in order."
Okay. Yes. We were expecting you. Would you mind terribly if you just take your first look around by yourselves?
Absolutely not. But there is a protocol to these things, and we must be able to ask questions about the things that we find on this inspection.
People will answer your questions, but we're very busy at the moment. Could you just tour the facility yourself first? No one will bother you or get in your way.
This is a Ministry of Preservation inspection. Who do you think you're talking to? You think this is some joke? What have you got something better to do? You must accompany us.
I share a look with Brits.
Some reason Silver tanking this golden opportunity. You're coming here as an interference with our work. Do you want the barrier to come down? There are fluctuations tonight. Do you even know what that means? Look, you go around by yourself, inspect what you want, and later you can ask us all your questions. All right? I don't have time for. She's walking away, and the door is left kind of swinging open.
Oh my goodness!
Good work.
I'll head inside after. What, is she walked out or walked back in?
Walked in.
Okay, I'll just walk in after.
So inside is basically most of the station is a great deal of it is one room, and it's a kind of double tier room where there are walkways on either side and like a lower section below that has a huge amount of like whirring and clanking machinery in it, huge spinning kind of cogged wheels kind of racked up next to each other that are churning round and round, presumably providing some kind of power. The noise and honestly like the smell of the of kind of the grease and the metal is almost overwhelming as you go in. You can see a number of other Sparkwrights moving around, tinkering, checking things, even looking on small kind of like little glass readout panels that they're kind of poring over and squinting at. Along the walkway from the entrance you've come in are a number of different rooms as you kind of walk past them. They mostly look like some storage rooms. There's something that looks like an office that doesn't seem to have much use, but you can see kind of some writing implements and stuff laid out. And then and I'll just give you all this information because you are literally free to walk around. And at the end, there is a smaller room that has kind of some storage in it. It also has a desk with what seems to be a logbook in it that's like open and just has lots of entries written in it. And also next to that, on like a table near that secret doorway, which is much more visible on the inside, is a canary in a cage.
Okay. Would we have any idea why there's a canary in a cage here?
I'll leave that up to you, I think. I'll leave that up to you to determine whether you know what a canary in a cage might be for.
Okay.
It's a lovely pet.
Yeah.
That's the answer to that.
I will tut loudly as I go past the secret door without yet saying anything to anyone in particular.
There is zero chance that any of the Sparkwrights will know. They're all in that main chamber tinkering away. They cannot hear. Like, as you walk past, a couple of the Sparkwrights kind of looked up and went back to their business. You are being left completely to your own devices in this station.
Okay.
Can I do a quick head count of the Sparkwrights? How many are there?
Absolutely can. And I'll give you. You know what? I'm just gonna do a dice roll for it. He said, thinking how he's going to get away with really low results. That's fine.
One person.
There are 8 Sparkwrights.
Okay.
Are you particularly doing anything in here other than pretending to be expecting the place? You know, are you up to no good in any way?
I'd like to have a look at that logbook and see if I can see any interesting patterns or records of maybe even the upcoming person.
Sure. That sounds like a roll. What roll are you going to make?
I think the best roll for it would be study.
Mm-hmm.
And I have 0 points in study, but I think I'm still going to be trying to study it.
Sure. I will offer you a devil's bargain for a tick of the clock.
We'll accept that devil's bargain.
Okay.
So I will get 1 dice.
I can assist.
Look over your shoulder and assist. This is a controlled roll, by the way.
Okay, so I'm rolling 2 dice. And I got 2 6s. Holy hell.
Jesus Christ. Okay, so
roll.
So you look through this logbook and you know what? You see a number of things. It seems to be a logbook of who is coming in and out through the lightning barrier. You see, there's a lot of names in there. You don't particularly recognize any of them, except you recognize two names who come in and out quite frequently. One is Lady Thorn, who has already been mentioned by the Wraiths as like a higher up in the Deathland Scavengers who's leading this caravan. And the other name is Richter, who you also know to be a member of the Deathland Scavenger crew. They come through a lot. Although there are also recently a couple of other people coming in and out who don't seem to have kind of like, they have like literally it'll be like Lady Thorn, Deathland Scavengers or whatever. There are a few people coming in and out who have just random names put in there but no affiliation next to them. So that seems unusual to you. Also, there is indeed an entry for Lady Thorn. It's labeled tonight, like the date is tonight, but the time is not yet written in. And there's like a notes section for like just detail. And they're not like interesting details. They're just like, 2 caravans, like sort of thing. And that is also blank. So clearly they know she is coming.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, I guess I'll sort of, after sort of studying that with Silver for a bit, I will try to. I'm sort of interested in reading the room in terms of the person who saw us seemed pretty stressed. Does everyone seem like that? Is that like a?
They do seem stressed, but like you've
tell.
Seen engineers before. You know what I mean? Like they're like. Yeah. And engineering at this time is like a less reliable thing than it is now, so they have to kind of constantly stay on top of things. Yeah, exactly. So like they do seem stressed, but it doesn't seem like there's any cause for alarm or anything. And speaking of causes for alarm, 3 sheets, not alarm really. As you're on top of your position there on the skyway, kind of lying in your sort of sniper's position.
I've got my spyglass as well.
Absolutely. Have you got it kind of resting on the edge so you can just like tip?
I think I can affix it to the rifle. It says.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that seems like an appropriate thing to do. You see out further on like the far edges of where you can see in that big wide dusty avenue that you've presumed is the way for the caravan. You see a light that flickers at first and then comes on, off, 3 times. And shortly after that last third, you see a light from along that avenue, further, like sort of along, not too far from where you are, but a couple of streets along, light up again in response. Flashes 3 times. And that's it. Apart from, you see a kind of shadowy mass form just sort of approaching out of the darkness of the Deathlands. Not like some hideous monster, but what you presume to be the caravans. Inside the station, there is, you know what? I'll give a fortune roll as to whether any of you detect it in any way. Yeah, all right. One of you does. Let's see who that is. Bricks, you are standing close enough to the alarm that when it goes off, you hear all Sparkrights instantly discern that it sounded off. But to the other 2 of you, it's just background noise in the roar of the machinery, but you hear like, oh, isn't that buzzing? And you look above yourself and there's a little sort of orange light, like an orange light bulb in one of those like iron casings around it to keep it secure, that has just started blinking above you. The Sparkright you saw with the red hair kind of looks up and goes, and kind of walks around and starts shouting in people's ears, and 5 of the Sparkrights start to make their way out, and they're actually making their way to the front door. They're not bothering to talk to any of the 3 of you about it. Are you going to engage them in any way?
We could try and go with them. Send a person.
I mean, we were told to let the first group of people go. Weren't we? Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, they have to go in some capacity, or the caravan can't come through the barrier.
I think
I will I'll play dumb, and I'll shout, "Oi, where are you lot going?
What?
Where are you going?
Caravan coming through. What, you want to inspect that as well?
Fine."
It did seem to be it was a slightly sarcastic question, but it did seem to be a genuine question. If like, I think, you seem to be batting around the idea. They seem to be somewhat approachable to the idea of you accompanying them, or one of you accompanying them, or whatever. It's up to you.
Might be kind of nice.
It leaves less of you here.
It does. I think we were told to stay here.
Just for the clarity, 3 of the Sparkrites seem to be remaining.
Yeah.
Okay. And does it really take all 5 of you?
Yes.
All right. Put that in my notes.
So we're all 3 of us are remaining. We're not taking them up on that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think I wouldn't be the most appropriate person to, like, me and Bricks are the most sort of like hitty people. But yeah, I think I'm probably just going to remain, just in case we have to actively subdue these people.
Sure, absolutely. So the 5 Sparkrites kind of bundle themselves up and have like various like toolkits, and they hang them off those leathers that they have, like big bundles of tools and gear, and they have a couple of like little iron boxes as well, and they walk out the front and close it behind them and just walk off. 3 sheets, you see this happen. You see the Sparkrites leaving the front and start walking on their way round to the street, presumably to allow access to the caravan. What I'm going to do is start talking about things that happen. And I need you guys to just interrupt me when you want to do anything else. But first, I'm assuming 3 sheets is not going to do anything right now.
No.
The 3 inside, are you going to do anything immediately? Because I'm guessing that you're not going to bother doing anything unless these 3 Sparkrites are in some way alerted.
Yeah, the only thing I was going to see if there's, given that it's one main room, I was just going to see if there's anywhere that seems like any piece of equipment that could be sabotaged in any way that I can see in any obvious way. But if that's not the case, then I'm just going to monitor the 3.
Sure. Justin, you had a question.
You may have said, but did they go out through the secret door?
No, they went through the front door.
Main one.
I was going to lean over to Silver and say, I think it's about time for some of that questioning, boss.
Yeah, it could be a good time to start talking with them.
Right. Make sure they've got their backs to that light.
Will do.
Okay. So it sounds like we've got a couple of roles here. It sounds like we've got Echo trying to figure out if any of this can be sabotaged if needs be. And it sounds like we've got Silver just rolling to kind of occupy them, like just in case something happens. Does that sound like what we were talking about? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's start with Echo's role. So what are you going to roll to figure out if any of it is easily sabotageable?
I think survey is what I'm going to try and do, just to see
I think
if
that's
there's any...
It's a decent one with standard effects. I think the best thing you could roll would be Tinker, but I'm not sure if you have any Tinker. So
I do not have any Tinker.
Sure.
Yeah.
I am going to offer you Tick of a Clock for a devil's bargain.
I mean, I can't go back on myself now.
Can't
so
say no.
I mean, obviously.
And this is going to be a risky roll. So you know.
Well, Matt, to go with my double 6s that I just got, I rolled
Double
2 1s.
There we go. So
they giveth and they taketh.
They do. They taketh away mightily. As you're kind of like peering around, and the bits that appear to you to be the most obviously easily sabotageable things are those huge whirring wheels, in the turbine in the center of the center of the room. And as you're kind of like looking around and like you're like sort of like look, you kind of like have grabbed a wrench and you're just kind of like peering around. You're not like or anything, but you're just kind of peering around. And as you do so, one of the Sparkrights like rounds a corner in front of you, and just goes, "What the fuck are you doing?" You are in a desperate situation.
Desperate situation.
It's worth noting that if you did something loud in any sphere of shouting or attacking or anything like that, it's actually fairly unlikely that the other two Sparkrights would hear you. They're engaged in conversation with Silver and Bricks.
Yeah, it's just whether I try and play this off as just wrench inspection.
Yeah, sure.
This isn't a standard issue wrench.
I say,
look at the state of this wrench.
This isn't a standard issue wrench.
Right, sure, yeah. You're passing it off as that. What is this role, Pierre? Because I'd love to know what this role is. Sway, I think sway or something like that.
Attempting to sway this person.
Attempting to sway. I'm not going to give you a devil's bargain. How many points you got in that there?
I've got 1.
Well, I don't think there's anyone there to assist you. But you can push yourself, right?
I can push myself to go from 6 to 8.
The rest of us can also offer a devil's bargain, can't we?
Yeah.
You can think of one that
you can think of an appropriate one, yeah.
Devil's bargain for a harm. While gesticulating with the wrench, you, I don't know, hit yourself with it or something.
Seems a bit of a stretch.
A standard issue wrench from our department would crumple if I tried to break my leg like this.
If I struck myself like this.
Given how stupid this plan seems to be, I am sort of slightly tempted to amend it slightly to say this isn't a standard issue wrench, and then hit him with it. With the intent
obviously that would be a sway.
So it
could still be a sway roll, but it would have very low effect. But yeah, if you want to plant him with a skirmish or something, then that's it's whatever you want.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I think I've been rumbled.
Have you got more points in skirmish?
So does the leveling up happen mid-session or not?
No. It happens at the end.
So the best way of doing it would be look just right here on the floor. Look what I found, and then as he bends over, just clock him in the back of the head. That's how you do it if you're professional.
Okay.
So either way, you've got a one die here, unless you push yourself, right?
It's the same either way.
So what are we going with? Are we going with clocking the guy, or are we going with talking your way out of it?
Okay, fine. I'm flip flopping tremendously. I'll go back to swaying.
Sure.
You can talk then clock. You can't clock then talk.
Yeah,
that's true.
Very true.
I will push myself.
Okay.
Ow. I rolled a 4. That's my
okay. Don't forget to take your desperate XP, which will be under your sway, whatever that is. I can't remember. Resolve. Yeah. So, what's the complication going to be for this then? That's what I want to know. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to say what this is
could it be a particular clock that is like no
suspicious? Because that doesn't kind of segue. That basically that would then be the opposite result of what he's trying to achieve, because I know what the clock is. So it wouldn't work out that way. It's okay. I've got something. So basically, you tell us how you convince him that this wrench is not regulation size, because I just want to see you role play this for a few seconds. That's the only reason I'm asking.
She clocks him.
I'm going to tap it and go, you see that scratch there? Metal, wrenches made out of this kind of iron are not supposed to leave scratches, as per regulation 498 of section 37 of the
anti-scratch legislation,
preservation anti-scratch provision.
Oh my God, shut up. Look, just don't monkey around down here. I've got my eye on you. and the kind of it's a kind of burly man with a slightly rambling beard, and he kind of turns away and kind of peers over his shoulder at you, and then drops his goggles back and goes back to a readout, which he is like checking every so often, kind of turning and looking at you. So the complication for this is basically like any action you take that's not passive while you're in this place is going to come with a tick of the clock.
Okay.
No need for a devil's bargain. So that's your complication, because he's got his eye on you.
Gotcha.
Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Okay. Up on your Skyway 3 sheets, you see that the group of Sparkwrights has reached that avenue over there, and you see them. You can kind of vaguely see them moving and kind of tinkering with junction boxes and the lightning barrier. You hear a kind of like there's a faint, high-pitched whine that's always there near the lightning barriers, and to the point where you barely hear it anymore. It's just part of the background noise of existence in Duskval. And now you can hear ever so faintly that noise kind of going, kind of winding down. The crackles of the lightning start becoming kind of less frequent. The booming noises they make start to be faint and echoey rather than kind of incredibly loud and deafening. And before you know it, within about 15 seconds or so, the lightning barriers stand kind of dark and dull, towering on either side about maybe kind of half a kilometer away from each other. Around this area, and there's a kind of odd deathly stillness only broken by the faint booming from other lightning barriers on either side. The caravan starts making its way forward through the gap that this leaves, and then halts kind of in the middle for a sort of brief talk and inspection before the barriers are re-raised. And you see the Sparkwrights walking over, you see the Deathland Scavengers. Their costumes are kind of riot of things they picked up from the outside. Odd, old-fashioned kind of hats draped on them, but like more new technology and armor they may have found on unfortunate other scavengers on the outside. And their caravans kind of pulled along by large, sort of odd oxen-like creature that you've only seen a few times within Duskval. Sort of almost, some of them don't have wheels; they just kind of scrape and clatter along the avenue behind them. And maybe it's your imagination, or maybe not, but you think you can detect some kind of like slightly dark forms moving around in the building, high up in the buildings opposite them, on the other side of them from you, which is presumably the wraiths preparing to go about their business. So, back inside, Silver, Bricks, you're having a conversation with the other two Sparkwrights. And so what's your purpose in this, did you say? Sorry. Just to kind of like keep them busy and distract them.
Yeah. And basically to stop them from looking at the light in case someone hits
someone sends an alert. Yeah. That seems perfectly reasonable for me. Silver, is this a group action or is it just Silver with assistance for Bricks?
I don't mind either way. Depends. I'm happy to lead a group action. I've got 5 stress at the moment. But
I think we did the rough number crunching on it, and group actions are slightly more likely to succeed, but also more likely to give you stress, right? I think that's what we determined.
I think so. I would prefer a group action.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. What are we rolling? Are we rolling consort, sway, something along those lines, or wreck? Just smashing things up. Look at this.
Consort
breaks so easily.
This isn't a regulation wrench.
As has already been proved.
Yeah, either consort or command would be my preference.
Okay, let's go consort. It's good with me.
Sure, you're kind of like, rather than kind of like persuading them, you lead to you're just kind of like going, how's, you complaining about general engineer ministry type things or whatever, you can come up with. Sure. Yeah, that sounds good. I don't have a devil's bargain for you, so.
Okay.
I rolled a 4.
I got 2 1s and a 3.
So that's one stress for Silver, but you did get a 4. So I think this was a controlled roll. I am going to say that basically you are going, like, some of the conversation steers around to areas you are utterly unfamiliar with, and you're really worried that you're going to put your foot in your mouth and kind of put them on edge, that you kind of don't know what you're talking about. And that's a bit weird because they start talking about grommets and stuff, and you're like, you don't really know.
Grommets.
Yeah, those darn dogs. You don't like really know what you're talking about there. So that's the complication. Do you want to resist it?
Is the complication is that they realize that, or that I'm like,
the complication, the mechanical result is the tick of a clock, which is linked to you saying something that doesn't make sense to them.
I think for now I'll leave it, hoping that there's more ticks on this clock that I can maybe resist later. But who knows?
Sure. I'll tell you, it's not full now.
Great.
So, yeah, they kind of look at you a bit odd, like when you clearly don't really. You say something off about some, things. You think you maybe use the term lug nuts a bit too much, and it just seems really odd to them. But nevertheless, they're still talking to you. They're still engaged. They seem to be kind of following what you're saying. Up on the Skyway, Justin, I would like a roll for you. This roll involves you seeing something. So you tell me what you want to roll, and I may advise you if it's wildly inappropriate, because I know you're kind of reacting to just something I'm saying rather than proposing an action. So I'll advise you on whether it feels right or not.
Does it feel right for it to be a hunt roll because I'm like staked out?
Let me just have a look. You carefully track a target. You might follow a person. No, it's specifically not, and I think you'll realize why as it goes forwards. So not
in that case, I think
Shall I just tell you what would be an example of what would be a good one? Doesn't mean you have to do it. Or
sure.
like survey would, I think, be the most optimal one. But if you don't have points in survey, like another thing could do.
I'll give a survey. Why not?
Okay. I don't have a devil's bargain for you. So
then I'm just going to roll. One die, and I roll a 2. A 2.
No matter then. So, inside, are there any actions that people want to take, or are they kind of happy with what they're doing at the moment? It's fine to be happy with what you're doing at the moment. Yep. There's no cause for alarm.
I am just wandering around, maybe occasionally glancing at the alarm thing, just in case.
Biding your time.
Yeah, getting ready.
Sure.
Yeah, as long as they still seem distracted, I'm
I'm fine for them to still be kind of like nattering to you.
I was going to try and drag that third one into the conversation. The one that Echo accidentally distracted.
How are you going to do that? Because the placement of it, you guys are like up on the walkway talking to the other two because you said you wanted it to be near the light, and that's up on the walkway. He's down among the machinery working on a readout screen. So you can try. I'm just saying it's gonna be challenging. You're gonna need to go down to him and say, "Come talk to," or some equivalent of that. So
if he's down there,
it might seem forced. That's all. But if you want to try it, let's go for it.
If he's down there, I kind of feel like I don't need to.
Okay.
Because he's probably not going to be looking.
He's not within sight of the light.
Okay.
There's turbines in the way. He's in the middle of all this, the gubbins, as it were. Okay. So if we're happy, I'm happy for time to roll forward. 3 sheets. You didn't notice them approaching from. Let's say I think it's fair, isn't it, that you're observing the caravan and the events happening there. Therefore, you did not see the individuals approaching directly beneath you, circumventing the station, moving rounds on the caravan and the spark rights underneath you, and therefore, when the first shots ring out, it is entirely a surprise to you.
Sounds like a thing.
Seconds later, this is what you can see. The Deathland scavengers are cowering behind their caravans, desperately fumbling for weapons to return fire. The Sparkwrights are just running for cover as far and as wide as they can. And you even see one of the wraiths, you can't tell who from this distance. You see them kind of like slide away. You never saw them approach the caravan, but you see them slide out from under the caravan and desperately kind of like, crawl their way over and roll over a low wall. There are a significant number of individuals below you approaching that caravan, and they're packing some serious firepower. You can see electroplasmic rounds kind of slamming in all around, and they really do seem to be going for the kill. You can see a couple of Sparkwrights already lying dead on the street, a couple of scavengers, and as you watch an individual clad, and they all seem to be clad in the same kind of gear, and one of them is dashing forwards, grabbing with some kind of electroplasmic bomb or grenade, tossing it overhead, and it causes a massive explosion, rupturing cobblestones out of the ground and just detonating an entire caravan of the Deathland scavengers. I am going to roll. I don't want you to roll for it. I'm going to give you a fortune roll here. You can roll it if you want. And the fortune roll is for whether you can recognize in any way these individuals. And it's going to be 1 die for standard, 1 die because you have seen these uniforms before, and 1 die because you're in a real good position to spot. Do you want to roll it, or do you want me to roll it?
I'll have you roll it.
Okay. Yes. You got a 4, which is just, success, and a 2 and a 3. It takes you a good few moments to realize that the individuals are attacking are all wearing Skurlock munition uniforms.
Right.
Cool.
I am going to roll a fortune roll every so often. Okay.
So, is this distinct from the Wraith attack that the Wraiths are doing? Or do I not really know?
I mean, the Wraith certainly didn't mention some kind of alliance with Skurlock munitions, and the Wraith underneath certainly seemed to be getting out of the way as fast as they possibly could. Like, it would seem to be somewhat against the Wraith's raison d'etre to have a massive assault carried out while they're, this is going to draw attention.
How many of the Skurlock ammunition go over there? Quite a few,
how many? I'll tell you how many you can comfortably see from your like sniper spot. You can see 12 of them, and you don't think you can see all of them.
In that case, I think that it's possible that the jig, like, we want to get out of here too.
Sure, yeah.
Because if this isn't the plan anymore, then
no, I think that's absolutely reasonable. So
I want to jimmy down.
You want to get your way down, absolutely. Down. While you do that, let's hop inside. Bricks, I'm assuming you're keeping an eye on that light because it's going.
Correct.
What do you do if it starts going?
Well, as far as I know, everything's going according to plan, so I'm just going to ignore it and try and keep the Sparkwright's attention off it.
Absolutely, and I think that's fair enough. I'm going to roll a fortune roll to see if the Sparkwrights notice it. 1 for standard, but I'm going to take away 1 because of you only got a minor success, right? You didn't get a critical or anything like that.
Correct.
Okay, I'm going to reduce it by 1 die, so they're going to be rolling with a disadvantage to see if they spot it. They do not spot it. And they carry on talking to you, and the 3 of you inside, are none the wiser for now as to what is happening outside. Okay, so Justin, you don't need to make a roll to clamber down at the moment because I made that first fortune roll on whether something happens, and it came up a 1. That definitely means that the something has happened. So, if I can beg your indulgence to describe the scene for a second.
Please.
You do not know whether it's an intentional sabotage, something triggered by someone monkeying around in some nearby mechanics or a junction box, or whether a stray round or an explosion hit the wrong thing. But beyond that explosion I said from the bomb being tossed, there is another huge crackling detonation at the side of the road. You see bodies flying, Sparkrite scavengers, Skurlock munition soldiers flying everywhere as the largest explosion you've ever seen, and that includes the one in the Blue Cloak encampment, erupts into the air, crackling with electroplasmic energy and electricity. There is an almighty clunking, cracking sound, and the base of one of the lightning barriers shifts and gives, and it creaks over to a 45-degree angle where it hangs there sickly in the air. Inside the station, the three of you hear the sound of those massive turbines kind of the Sparkrites are staring around them. They look horrified that this has happened. 3 sheets out where you are, you can see the lightning barriers on either side of this section slowly dimming and going dull. The crackling stops, and it's like a silence that ripples around the edge of the city as every lightning barrier in order winds down and goes dead. In the center of that electroplasmic detonation that you saw, it's still kind of like swirling, like a blue coruscating mist at the center of the road. And inside it, turning, and you can see one figure turning amongst this detonation and walking out from it, looking back over his shoulder at the havoc that's been wrought. Lord Skurlock stands there, a book in his hands, seemingly recovered from the caravan at the center of the detonation. A troubled expression crosses his face briefly, and then he walks away back towards Doskvol with the few of his soldiers who remain kind of like accompanying him and like turning over their shoulder and looking terrified at the Deathlands in the distance, from which starts to emerge a slow cacophonic howl in the middle of the distance, a single voice that echoes out over the lightning barriers and this lost sector where you are, slowly joined one after another by another voice, another howl, another shriek, over and over until tens and hundreds of voices are ringing out in a crowded cry that slowly seems to be moving closer towards Doskvol. Inside the station, one of the Sparkrites glances through like a high window through which you can see that the lightning barriers are no longer active, and pale, almost dead to the look, says, "The walls have fallen." That's the end of our arc.
Cool.
Yeah. Those are the walls.
Those are them walls. Them walls we've been mentioning.
I think
it'll be fine. It'll be fine.
It wasn't our fault.
There's no downtime phase for this one for obvious reasons, I think. And like I say, I'd really love to come back. I'm sure we will come back to Blades in the Dark. I don't want this to be like, oh, and that's how Duskfall ends. I want this to be a cliffhanger from which we move forwards. But yeah, hopefully that was fun. There we go. As usual, folks, if you've got any comments or questions, slide them into the chat and we'll address them before we go offline. In the meantime, promo stuff, links down below. YouTube and Twitch are our main sites of choice. If you just follow us on one, please check out the other. Our YouTube has lots and lots of content on it for you to peruse, and our Twitch is where to catch us live. So doing both those things would be awesome. We've got links to our social media, to our Patreon, and to our Discord. They do all the things you might expect. If you want to join us on there, we'd be delighted. We normally run 3 weekly campaigns. They're a little bit in flux at the moment because we're switching to new series, but I'll just describe what it will look like in a couple of weeks' time. We'll have Shadows of Esteren on Mondays. Blades in the Dark will be gone. We'll be off on Tuesdays. Simmering will be on Wednesdays, and our World of Darkness campaign will be on Thursdays. So we'll be running Mondays, Wednesdays, Thursdays. All of them will start at 8 o'clock PM BST, as our weekly series have always done. Shadows of Esteren starts next week. on the 25th of October, and World of Darkness on the 4th of November, Thursday the 4th of November. If you want any more details about those series, there's a VOD that's available still on our Twitch and has just gone up on our YouTube tonight. It's like a little launch stream where we talk about them in exhaustive detail. So if you want any more juicy info on those, please go check that video out. We also run monthly one-shots on the first Saturday of every month. The next one of those to arrive is on Saturday the 6th of November, which is Chris running Dune Adventures in the Imperium, which I think 2 people here are definitely playing and another one is maybe playing. Is that right? Is that you, Sam, maybe playing that?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, so that should be a good time, right? And hey, you'll just seen the movie, right? And it'll be flavorful for you to go watch a Dune RPG. So why not do that? Is that on my promotion, folks? God, there's a lot at the moment. But I think that's it. I think we're done.
I think it's a busy channel. Busy.
Play in the dark. Comments, folks, please. Comments and questions and the like. 42. If they'd only had a standard issue wrench,
Exactly.
could have fixed it. Fixed it. Just wrenched that barrier up. One from Sam here. I'd like to spend my downtime desperately running away from ghosts. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure that'll be an option for you so much as a necessity, but yeah,
It's
absolutely.
Time to put some points in tune.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean,
do we get XP?
Oh yeah, they'll handle all your XP for this. Absolutely.
Nice.
One from John. I'm thinking we should have taken that immune to ghost crew upgrade. That was the one I was kind of hinting at. Like it wouldn't be useful tonight, but it may be very useful coming up. But
ghosts aren't real. Matt. What are you talking about?
Yeah, Echo definitely doesn't believe in ghosts, especially not after those horrible encounters with ghosts.
Yeah.
I would like to say though, even though we don't have that crew upgrade, Brix has taken the personal upgrade that allows him to punch ghosts in the face.
Well,
so
there we go. And Free
fine.
Sheets has like electroplasmic rounds, right? So you know.
And Echo has a terrifying
sparkling
fear of ghosts.
I'm definitely now eyeing my ghost ability upgrade with a bit more enthusiasm.
Sure, absolutely. But did we enjoy that, folks? Did that feel like a nice conclusion to the arc?
Yeah.
Good.
I would have been very disappointed if no walls had fallen.
Right, yeah.
At
The
any
only reason
point.
I was wondering, I knew it was going to happen eventually, and I knew walls will fall meant the lightning barriers coming down in whatever form and for whatever amount of time. But I was half and half when I was planning this on making it this or putting it further down the line and making it a kind of like overall campaign end, kind of big end conclusion. And I thought, given the fact that we're not 100% that we'll definitely come back to this regularly, I can't do all that foreshadowing and then not put it in. You know what I mean?
There are still plenty of metaphorical walls that have not yet fallen.
And hey, maybe that's not what they were talking about. Or maybe
Exactly.
We were really close to knocking them down ourselves.
Yeah. Well, when you were talking about like sabotaging and stuff, I was like, maybe I could. I would have just worked that into it, like as part of like the sort of.
You've just been like, you triggered the end of Duskfall.
Yeah,
it was on you.
I'm glad it's not our fault in the end. I'm pleased we didn't sabotage them. I'd have felt worse.
Yeah, but are you going to exit and go 3 sheets, man? What did you do?
And hey, what about Skurlock getting to redo his big explosion survival set piece thing? Good for him.
That is what he's got down on his abilities, and he is just finding every opportunity to use it. Can survive it, can walk away from explosions.
That's the ability he bought, and god damn it, he's going to get his XP's worth out of it. Yeah, have we got anything else out there, Steve? I would say though, actually, speaking of Steve, thank you for your resubscription, Steve. Nearly a ridiculous year, absolutely
nice.
Right. Yeah. There we go. Very enjoyable series. Thanks for running it. Thank you, Malice. That's very much appreciated. Yeah, like I say, we'd like this to return, I think. So maybe it can be on the cards for when World of Darkness winds up. Maybe we could further it with some one-shots or something, or some offline recording and then turning that into streams. We've talked about whether we do that. I think it's safe to say we'd like Blades in the Dark to return and progress the story of the Keepers. But not for now. We'll see where things stand after World of Darkness, I think.
Other things to do, you know?
Other things to do. lots of systems to play and do. So yeah. Thank you so much for watching, folks. If you watched all of Blades of Darts in the Darts at this point, extra special thank you for sticking with us. We hope you enjoyed it. Thank you to my wonderful players who've sunk into this excellently and built some great characters and made the Keeper's story really kind of come to life. Thanks to Steve for being a thoroughly excellent stream manager and donating his wonderful time to this wonderful stream. So that's great stuff. Yeah. We'll see you for now. I'll catch people who are tuning into Simbroom tomorrow. And then the non-Simbroom series that we'll have going forwards for a while will be Thursdays, World of Darkness, 4th of November. I will see